It's Crystal with Pure, and just really fast I wanted to show you what to do in a circumstance where there is some coloring in the sky and the sky extraction is not, and when you apply the sky, it isn't taking up the entire sky. So really fast, if I just run the sky extraction on this action, you can see just looking at this mask that it's not getting the entire sky, and that's because there's some cyan in the sky, but I'll go ahead and show you what it looks like if you were to not pay attention to that and actually add a sky. So if I go apply overlay with options and come down to like sky 70 and hit enter, first you're going to see it start right here. Like you're going to see a little bit of funkiness right in this area, but let's just ignore that for a second and see what it does. So there's a couple of different options. You can either just come up here to the extract mask layer and use a black mask and take care of it that way. It's always an option. So this will work. This would work on any sky that has those issues. You can just use the sky extract mask to paint back more of the sky. Or you can do it, and then I would need to fix him, or you can do it this way. So you come over to your hue sat and select this little like tool right here, and then select the coloring that's in the sky, and this is saying it's cyan. So then if you lower the opacity, you can lower the opacity, the saturation, and then raise the lightness, so then it turns more white. So you can do that. And then I'll go ahead and erase off of the water, because obviously I don't want it to affect the water at all. So, and that takes 2 seconds. And then Shift Command E, and then sky extract. And then I'll show you right now, if you look at the mask right here, it looks significantly better. If I hit apply overlay with options, and hit sky 70, you can automatically tell right there that it's significantly better. I need to obviously fix his, I'm going to need to fix his shirt, but that's going to be an easy fix. So then I can just come right here to paint back the details and use a white brush at 100% and just paint back his shirt. Okay. And that takes just a couple seconds. And then come down here to the extract mask. Again, make sure you select the actual mask. If you select just the layer and you choose a black brush, it'll brush on black. So make sure you select the actual mask and a black brush and just brush that on like so. And then be careful, because you can see this line forming right here, because that's where the sky ends. If I hit transform, you can see that's where the sky ends. So if I bring it down just a little bit more, that'll be perfect. And then I just need to watch out for her shirt or his shirt, because since I moved the sky down more, it's going to affect more. So I'll just paint back the details and go down just a little bit more since I moved that sky down. Okay, so I think that is pretty close. There will be a natural gradient from the edge of the water to the, from the edge of the water into the sky, but I'm not going to make it like super dramatic, because then it looks super fake, like if I do it like that. And I'm not going to go like this either, because that looks super fake too. So I think right here is probably like a happy medium for me, because I can still see a little bit of clouds in between them. But it's not super strong. So I think I also want to paint back the details here with a white brush, just right here where the edge. Perfect. Okay, so now if I want to further the edit, I can go ahead and just Shift Command E these. And then I can come down to, I think maybe Golden Fields, and see what this does. You can lower the opacity. You can, I love how it like brightens and warms it and gives it like a warm feel. So you can lower the opacity if you want, Shift Command E. And then I'll come down to Dreamy Blue Water. And this is going to be really strong at first. And so I'm just going to, but I'm still going to lower the opacity of this. With a white brush, just come in and just kind of brush that on there. It'll change the tone of that water. You can see how it went more of like a Caribbean blue. Caribbean. Perfect. So it just changed the color of that water. Again, you don't have to do it that strong. You can change the opacity. So just Shift Command E. And then I can do deep yellow, dirt, weeds, sand, etc. Come down here. And with this one, you want to make sure you avoid any grass because it'll change the grass too. But unless you like the way it looks on the grass, which actually this one looks really nice on the grass. But it really adds like a little bit of pop to the sand here. So it's not just like super white and just come right in here. Don't forget like little details like in between their feet and stuff like that, because that's the quickest way to know that you did something to a photo if you forget like little areas like that. Because it doesn't go with the rest of the photo. So that's this, and I can go ahead and lower the opacity on that if I want. And then I would just straighten it. You can also do illusion, and I'll just hit play. And again, this is going to be really strong, so I'll lower the opacity of this also. So I'll make it as big as my couple and use a black brush and brush that off. And then I'll just lower the opacity of the whole layer to about 50%. It adds a nice pop. Then this adds a nice warm feel. It's a little strong at 100%, but I think right about here is perfect. Maybe a little bit less. And then hit play again. And then if you want to add a sunburst, you totally can. I mean, just make sure that wherever you add it, you're adding it in the direction of the light. So I don't want to add a sunburst, so I'll just hit play. And again, with the oh my gosh, my brain. With the blur, if you don't want to add any blur to this photo, which I'm not going to because there's a very minimal depth of field here and it'll look fake super fast, just Command or Control I that layer and get rid of that. And then hit play. And again, this is going to add some pop and warming, and then it wants you to do some dodging and burning. So I'll go ahead and just lower the opacities of that and then select layer 1 and come over here and select burn. And usually between 40 and 50% or so, and just kind of go over. I avoid the sky because again, if I make it super dark, it can look really fake pretty fast. And then dodging, you know, just come in here and look at where the highlights are and just kind of go along the highlights. And once you're done with that, hit play. And this is going to ask you to use the sponge tool. So I'll just come over here and make sure it's on saturate, not desaturate. And just again, like it'll add a nice pop of color here. So then you can lower the opacity of that to however strong you want. Probably right there. And then this changes the color of the grass. I'm not really, I think right about there is fine. So then hit play. And then in a sweeping motion, just kind of like, you know, brush off some of the strongness of the last darkening action. And then hit play. And then you're done. And so we just quickly went from this to this. Now, if I feel like it's still too strong, I've showed you this trick before. I take a snapshot. If you crop, take a snapshot after you crop. So I'll select this and then move this little brush tool to right here. And then come over here to my history brush tool and make it as big as your photo. If it's a vertical photo, I would go up and down, but horizontal, I'm going to sweep over to the side. And start at about 10%, and I'll just do one sweep over. And if I feel like I need more, I'll do another sweep over until I feel like I'm in a good place. And you can also do it just down on the bottom. So we went from this to this, and I feel like this is much more realistic, and I like that. It's very clean and classic. So we went from that to this. And if I wasn't explaining it, it probably would have taken me about a minute or two. That's just one of the ways that you can get rid of some of the coloring in the sky if there's some clouds or colors. There's this image here. There's some clouds here. Another option is just to Command J and duplicate the layer and just use a white brush and just at 100%. Ugh. And make sure you duplicate, I need a normal brush, geez, Crystal. And just make sure you duplicate the layer and just brush that over. And you see, you gotta be careful because it's brushing onto her face. And so you can add a mask right down here in the corner and then use a black brush. And you could use the eraser tool, but I don't like the eraser tool because I can't, like if I brush too much off with the eraser tool, I can't just switch my brush and brush it back in. So if I have a mask here, I can use a black brush to brush it off. And then if I brush too much off, I could use a white brush to brush it back in. So that's perfect. So now that gets rid of the coloring there. And again, I'll make sure I hit her. And that's perfect. And that will be much easier to sky extract. And I don't think there's much color in there. There's a little bit of red, so you could take that out too if you wanted to, but really it's going to be just fine. So that's another option. You can just paint the sky white. So I hope that that helped answer another question that we typically get.